All right, let's do Rubin, since we're on a kick. Why not? It's the fun half. We've had so many fun halves where we haven't had any fun, and now we're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want me to do these type of videos. They're like, oh, you're just going out there for clicks. You're just doing Glenn Greenwald. You just want to put his name in the title of your video, and you're doing Dave Rubin. Well, that's why I'm doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not going to be told by those people over there what I can and can't do.
You're not going to be censored.
I'm not going to be censored.
This is a country where we have free speech, huh?
This is a moment where I actually sort of feel bad for Dave Rubin, and
the feeling bad, we settled on a droplet,
it's
right?
A droplet.
Not a thimble, not a tablespoon, not even a teaspoon.
And there's actually, I'm going to say, the slightest bit of self-respect here. It is slight, but as you know, Dave Rubin has, according to him, completed his journey from a lefty liberal through a classical liberal to a liberal but not woke, to a single-payer health insurance and small government, to just like to pro-choice. But through it all, he maintained his marriage to a man, and that was one of the things he signified to prove that he was on the left, and no longer is proof of him being on the left, apparently. But it is a liability for him on the right. And just to be clear, it's not just the Christian conservatives that have a problem with him. It's also the Jewish conservatives. Fundamentalists don't like gay people. Period. End of story. That is a facile way of saying they don't think that they think they're sinful, and therefore we should not promote sin. And here is Dave Rubin not necessarily like figuring out how he could do. He's willing to concede that by the very nature of he being a man and his husband being a man, that they're not going to raise their kids as well as kids deserve to be raised. He's willing to concede that. Yeah. But he won't go a step further, and kudos to him for that. Yeah, and to be clear, this is clipped at one point.
Yeah, this is from Dave Clip's obviously great account, but it might be a tiny bit like stitched together.
All right, we're going to just say where the clip is. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
A family generally is a father and a mother and then children. Are there ways? That is the norm. That is the norm, and I would say in some ways this is going to sound a little bit weird for a certain amount of people, but that is sort of the ideal. But in the world, not everything is always the ideal. So in the family that we are going to raise, we're obviously going to have two fathers. However, that is not me saying, oh, women are not important, or that there is no difference between men and women or anything like that. And it will look...
Okay, pause it. There was a clip there, all right? So he's making it clear, like, look, I'm not saying that the nuclear family, as, we talk about in the Bible, is not the ideal. It is. I'm just saying that sometimes things are less than ideal, and that's unfortunately me and my life. That's my family.
We're messy.
Before we even start raising our kids, I understand we're doing it in a way that is not optimal. It is less than. All right, so then there's a clip, and then we go into this, unclipped.
Look different than the traditional family, yes. But how many people do the traditional family truly right, with the best of the mother and the father, and don't do anything to screw up their kids psychologically or physically or anything else? So I think you can say that, oh, there is the norm and the ideal, and then there are things around that and approximate to it that are pretty good too. And the best that I can do is do the best that I can to make something good happen.
What I hear from your things right now is that on the ideal, you would prefer that your children will be heterosexual, and to live in the classic ideal family, men and women.
Well, I wouldn't prefer, well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. I don't know that I would prefer that they would be. I would prefer that they...
Pause it. See him look down at his notes. Like he has to walk. I mean, this is where I feel bad for this guy, because he is desperate. He is nervous about this. Like, how is he going to be able to talk about his kids? How can he live his life and still maintain his living as a right-wing lunatic at a time where all the conservative culture warriors have now struck back. Like he's living in the world that he wanted.
Yeah.
The non-woke world, finally. And now he's finding out that like, oh, this seems to be hostile to me. And he's looking at his notes. How do I address this? He never thought that the guy would say like, so of course you want the best for your kids. Therefore, you don't want them to be in a gay family.
Right. It's kind of the perfect question to ask Dave in this
very
situation.
smart. Only like we couldn't have thought of that question.
No.
Right. Because we're not hateful,
No,
probably like this
no.
guy, right?
Well, let's ask you. Listen, this guy, I don't hate the sinner, but it's not, I mean, gay is wrong. Wrong, period. That's it. Go ahead.
Good too. And the best that I can do is do the best that I can to make
So
something good
basically
happen.
what I hear from your things right now is that on the ideal, you would prefer that your children will be heterosexual, and to live in the classic ideal family, men and women.
Well, I wouldn't prefer. Well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. I don't know that I would prefer that they would be. I would prefer that they.
Yep.
That I am able to raise two children who are functional adults who have an understanding of the way the world works and can find some meaning in their lives and live a life that's important to them. If ultimately they both turn out to be straight, that's fantastic. If one of them turns out to be gay, that's fine too.
No, I mean on the ideal, not if it would happen, you would, of course, you would embrace them if they were gay, like, of course. But this is not the question.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you think the ideal that you would teach your, not teach, but want your children to be?
Yeah. I guess we're getting hung up maybe a little bit on the word want. I would
thought you were gonna say ideal.
in the reality of reality is that the life.
Pause it. Let's be clear. The question the guy was asking was, you're not going to groom your children to be gay, right? You're going to tell them it's better to be straight. Because he says teach. But then he realizes, like, okay, I can't say teach. I say want. Like
Like, you need to tell your kids that the way that you and your husband are is not right. It's not ideal. And you need to communicate that clearly if you want to be in our club.
parents have, I mean, I think most parents, certainly I do. Parents are, have, particularly when your kid's born, you have a whole list of things like expectations and then wants and aspirations you have for your children. Like, I wanted my daughter to be bookish. And like that, little girl over there goes, she like reads the book and like, oh, we're having dinner. And look, oh, we can, please put the book down. Come, please put the book down. Yeah, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And, I suppose you can teach her to read, but it's like, okay, like, all right, you want, okay, fine. There's other things. But like the idea that you would have to, as a, want anything ultimately for your kid into like sexual orientation is not really anything you think about. Well, maybe there's some people do, but it's not like, it doesn't ever like, I don't like, I want her to be gay or I want her to be straight. No, I want her to be bookish, or I want her basically to be happy, and also clean up her room. But this is just like, it's fascinating way he's going to have to deal with these questions. And so this is where I want to like give him some credit for some measure of courage, because he's dancing around. He doesn't want to have to address this question.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want to have to say, like, to be honest with you, like, I don't care how my kids come out as long as they're happy. I'd be happy to have them gay. I'd be happy to have them straight. And he says he'd be happy to have them straight. And if it's gay, that's okay. But he is being forced to basically say he is less than.
Yes.
This is what the denial, when we talk about like you're denying their trans people, you're denying their gay people. Like, how do you say, I wish I wasn't, like, make someone say, I wish I wasn't this way, particularly for a guy like Root. Like, I can see, because of the nature of our society, people saying, and particularly more so years ago, but kids in certain environments, I wish I wasn't gay, because then I wouldn't have all of these problems that society is creating for me. But here's a guy who, until very recently, was in no way precluded from being able to actualize and be happy as a gay man. He's able to marry, he's able to have kids, he's able to have a career. I don't think he's ever been denied housing or a job. Fortunate for him, or, at the very least, marriage equality happened at a time when he wanted to get married. He had to grow up in an environment. I don't know where he grew up, or what, whether he had to keep his being gay submerged. Certainly, I know people my age, when they were kids, they did. I don't know if he had to, depending on where they were, but, and now this is the moment where he is being told, can you please tell our audience that you wish you weren't gay?
And I wonder if his reaction or his response, where he has that modicum of self-respect, would be different if, say, Ben Shapiro was asking him this question, or Glenn Beck, or somebody who was
closer to his network.
Yeah, and perceived, aspirational or above his stature as a right-wing talk show host, because he's much more obsequious.
Here's where he gets that moment of courage.
What do you think the ideal that you would teach not teach, but want your children to be?
Yeah. I guess we're getting hung up maybe a little bit on the word want. I would understand the reality of reality is that that life would be sort of the easiest, supposedly, although I don't think life is necessarily supposed to be easy.
Wait, that doesn't end, is it? Oh, I thought there was a little bit more on that clip. Well, I still think I saw some courage in there. I guess it is. He's not fully addressing
that the courage to stand up to that guy who's a random TV show host.
The courage to say, it's okay if my kid's gay. I'd be happy if he's straight, but it'd be okay if he's gay. That's as close as he got.
Right. And the thing is, now Rubin is entering into an interesting dilemma with the children. Because this happens, when I started this job, my daughter was, I guess, 4. Or no, wait, she was just being born. She was literally just being born. Or maybe, not about a year into it, I guess, 2005. But my ex was pregnant almost immediately after I started this job. And you do think about, what world your kid's going to live in. You think about, is my kid ever going to see any of this stuff? It's, I think as a kid, you sort of feel I don't want my parents to see this. But as an adult, not everybody, some people think I don't know if I want my kid to see this. And as little respect as I have for Dave Rubin, I get the sense that he's starting to have to wrestle with these questions. Because does he want to be a clip of him out there saying, yes, ideally my kids wouldn't be gay? I mean, can you imagine how effed up that would be if you are his kid and find out that your dad said that?
Yeah.
And he's going to have to wrestle for this. I mean, that's where my, eyedropper of empathy, sympathy comes in. At one point, he's going to have to reckon with this, because now maybe he'll avoid talking about it, which is probably the best thing for him to do. But he sort of feels like he needs to figure out a way of making it work. And I don't see how he's going to thread this needle.
I think they're going to sacrifice him. I mean, he's in an escape room he's not smart or he's too proud to get out of, basically.